I'm a university instructor and I just got awarded a class. And I'm thinking, yes, super exciting. But I'm also thinking, what should I put in the AI policy for my class? Because this stuff keeps changing. The university does not have a global policy, and I'm frankly not super sure what is even the right thing for students these days. So I went around and looked for some ideas for what some of the smartest teachers are doing out there, and I found that there were actually a couple of things to this that I had not considered before. Most professors are likely to think about the student facing side of things, right? Telling the students when to use it and when not to use it. And that's okay. And that's kind of like the level one of the AI policy. And if you want to make that really good, you can start to add definitions and examples of what's a good use case and what's not a good use case. But if you want to enrich it even more, you can start to show students how the reasons why you're telling them to use it or not use it are actually good for the learning of that subject itself. So, for example, rather than just tell students do not use AI because it won't make you think, show them how this specific policy can actually connect to the rubric and the learning outcomes that you specified and help them become better learners. Here's a really great example from Professor Joe Glad, who puts the AI policy on two dimensions, a cognitive dimension and an ethical dimension. Starting with the cognitive dimension, Joel says, working with AI should not reduce your ability to think clearly. We will practice using AI to facilitate rather than hinder learning. And for the ethical dimension, he says students using AI should be transparent about their use and make sure that it aligns with academic integrity. Now, these might not be super specific, but the fact that there are two dimensions and those two dimensions are acknowledged is already a huge step up from the typical purely academic integrity focus. Another instructor, Megan McNamara from UC Santa Cruz, actually defines the word integrity itself by saying integrity, other people's perception of your word as true, is one of the most valuable assets you can cultivate in life. She adds, being attentive to integrity in academic settings allows others to trust that you have completed work for which you are taking credit. And so it's not necessarily just academic integrity as university policy, but this notion of integrity overall that Professor McNamara wants to cultivate in her class. The second layer up from super clear student definitions is an instructor declaration, where basically you as an instructor are giving the students the ability to check you on your own usage of AI. And for this, you as the instructor need to explain where you will and where you will not use AI, not just where the students will or will not. My favorite quote from this comes from Mark Watkins, the author of the Excellence Substack newsletter Rhetorica. And he says, for our class AI policy, I'm going to start by telling you what I won't be using AI for and why that is meaningful to me. I won't be using AI to answer emails, provide feedback, or grade your work. I also won't be using AI to write letters of recommendation. The reason why I won't be using AI for these purposes is that it can impact the relationship I have with you, and that is something I value much more than efficiency. You may feel differently, and that's okay. Anytime that I do use AI, I'll be transparent about how it is used, including labeling what was generated by a machine. I invite you to craft your own statement about how you will use AI or not use AI in this class. Focus on what you value about your student experience, learning, and the relationship you have with your peers and me. Mark is going all out here with a lot of details and invitations for the students to think for themselves. And I think it's just incredible that he even acknowledges disagreements are fine, but that's just what he thinks. And I think that's kind of what university is for, right? We are past the high school stage. We can actually engage with these people like the adults that they are and trust that they will trust you and trust that they want to learn and then express your worldview. And, sometimes students won't agree and that's fine, but this actually enables them to see if this class is even for them. And I think that's fantastic. Another instructor, Bridget Arend from Intentional College Teaching, says, I've used it myself for creating rubrics or assignment ideas, often when I'm either stuck or in a pinch. This is how I currently rationalize and will explain my own use of AI to students in the hopes that they can see some of the benefits and limitations and also hold me accountable. And again, I think that's wonderful because the idea of telling students how you are using it is in itself an instructional thing. She also adds, I am very comfortable saying this approach is based on my current understanding about how AI could impact your learning. We will talk about it throughout the course, so these policies may change over time as our understanding evolves, but please know that my policy is created and enforced to make the best learning experience possible for you. We were basically telling the students, I think the way I use it is fair, or at least I think it's rational enough that perhaps you can do the same too. And this isn't to say that the policies you set for yourself have to be identical for the policies that you set to the students, but the transparency on that difference, if it does exist, is what I invite you to think about, rather than just dismiss the idea that as an instructor you have more powers than the students, or that you don't need to justify every single thing. I think in these times specifically, that kind of justification is actually quite important. Already, if you've added both the extra definitions for the students, a couple of examples, and your instructor declaration, you're probably going to have an AI policy in your course outline that's much, much better than the average thing the students are receiving these days. However, if you really have the time and want to take it to the next level, the third thing is co-creating your AI policy with the students. This is an activity from Sydney Sharkey, a lecturer at San Diego State University, who asked her students this. Imagine you're in a home studio writing group, not a university classroom. You're not trying to earn a grade, but to grow as a thinker, writer, and community member. In this space, we use tools, learn from each other, and figure things out together. One of those tools might be AI. But what should that look like? You can see from Sydney's activity that the goal in her writing class is to get the students to stop thinking about themselves as students and to start thinking of themselves as participants in this learning environment. What decisions would they make if they were to write an AI policy? What would be fair in their eyes if they were grading others? By throwing this back at the students, Sydney is inviting them to think critically about the policy that they're reading, but also about the challenges in creating a fair policy. And I think this type of empathy between student and teacher can really change the feeling about whether or not a policy is fair in the first place, even though at first glance, some rules in there might have seemed unreasonable or unfair. Sydney adds a few prompts in addition to this that include what types of AI use feel ethical, helpful, or appropriate in a writing course, when does AI help you learn, and when might it hinder your growth, how can we ensure AI use doesn't impact our critical thinking skills. And then all of the answers to this are taken, processed, and put into a policy that are shared with the students to be upheld throughout the semester. And so those are the three levels that you can think of when you're trying to upgrade your policy, starting with clear student definitions, including connecting those definitions and policies for the student's usage to actual learning outcomes and the rubric. Second, going up to the instructor declaration, already adding that to the student definitions is a huge leg up for your class. And that one is all about giving the students the ability to know how you're using it and also hold you accountable to those use cases for yourself. And of course, third is the gold standard, in my opinion, but not every instructor has the time, and that's totally fine, which is to co-create the policy with your students and provide reflection prompts around that so that it becomes integrated into the learning experience. And those are the three levels. All the links to the things that I mentioned are going to be in the description so that you can reference them in your own time. And if you found any of these things particularly insightful, please let me know which ones they were in the comments so I know how to keep providing more insights into teaching in this highly chaotic and evolving world with artificial intelligence and changing technology. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.